Good afternoon. This is Evan Olivier, and I'm going to give a short presentation about protists and human pathogenic protista. So what are protista? Well, even though these may look like bacteria, they're actually not. Cells of all protists have a nucleus and other organelles, unlike bacteria and archaea prokaryotes. There are over 100,000 species of these protists alive today, with many more undescribed species waiting to be found. So main characteristics include the fact that eukaryotic organisms that have one or more characteristics that prevents them from fitting the criteria for being classified as an animal, plant, or fungi are all called protista. This kingdom includes single-celled eukaryotes like Acanthocystes terfacia, but there are also some very large multicellular species such as kelp that can grow hundreds of feet in depth in the oceans. Many live in symbiotic relationships, but some are more parasitic and damaging. Most exist in aquatic environments like damp soil, snow, oceans, and freshwater streams. Some of them have colonies with what seem like free-living cells, while others blend in more with what you'd expect plants to look like. Still others are built of rather large, multinucleate single cells that actually resemble slime or an amorphous blob. And these different nuclei are actually different sizes, and they control different cellular functions. They're quite odd. Movement can range from the use of flagella, rows of tiny cilia, or the use of a pseudopodia that shoot out of anywhere on the organism to basically puncture an anchor and then pull itself towards different sections of the chosen substrate. It's pretty wild. Even stranger, many will develop an animal-like cell membrane or plant-like cell walls, while others are encased in a glassy shell or wound up with pellicles. These forms of life sure are alien, but they actually tend to mimic other forms of life like ferns or fungi. So, a little evolutionary history of protists. Scientists believe protists to be the first eukaryotes, so they're actually quite significant because they likely were a large step into kind of the branch off between more simple life and more complex life. This likely happened from endosymbiosis, which you can see in the photo here to the left, where a prokaryote envelops some anaerobic bacteria or other type of bacteria that eventually they, instead of digesting, find mutual benefits, so that bacteria are protected, for instance, while the prokaryote now has an energy-producing bacteria inside of it instead of having to roam around enveloping food, which is what happened here. They eventually turn into the cyanobacteria eventually turn into the chloroplasts, or anaerobic to mitochondria. Interestingly enough, some of these protists have actually been found to be more closely related to plants, fungi, or other animals than they are to other protists, which is pretty interesting. A green algae that is a protist is believed to have given rise to plants, and a larger eukaryotic protist, maybe many of them that are believed to have given rise to animals. There are various types of nutrition in this kingdom, like autotrophs that use sunlight for energy, or heterotrophs that eat other organisms, or sacatrophs that feed on dead or organic matter. Protists are ultimately grouped into 6 supergroups, though, that include excavata, chromalveolata, Prisaria, Archaeoplastida, Amoebozoa, and Opisthoconta. This supergrouping is due to the fact that they are all likely monophyletic, meaning they come from the same ancestor. There are some human pathogenic protista. Humans can find themselves at risk of pathogenic protists called protozoa that tend to be parasitic-like, and For instance, a good example of that are the causative agents of malaria and waterborne gastroenteritis in humans. Infection occurs usually through bites from mosquitoes and ticks, as well as through ingestion or infection from water sources and food. Giardia is another good example. That's usually comes from some dead animal that is upstream from where you were drinking in the wild. Plasmodium species actually develop in liver cells and then infect red blood cells, and trypanosomes change their surface glycoproteins to trick the immune system each infection cycle. So they basically hide themselves each time. So they can regrow. Quite hard to eradicate. Something interesting, if you've ever cleaned out a drain and had that horrible experience, you've probably run into biofilms, as you can see here in this photo. And these are important for human pathogenic protista and other microbial pathogens, because these are basically microbial communities held together in a gummy textured matrix consisting primarily of polysaccharides secreted by the organisms, together with some proteins and nucleic acids. Biofilms grow and attach to surfaces, and these pathogenic microbes can actually accumulate in biofilms and survive longer with better nutrient supply. And shelter against disinfection or hot water or any of that. So it's good to clean out some pipes. Thank you so much for listening. That is my presentation.